ที่ว่ารู้จักธรรมะเพราะธรรมะมีจริงและกำลังมีจริงและก็เป็นแต่ละสิ่งที่หลากหลายมากเห็นมีจริงเป็นธรรมะหนึ่งได้ยินมีจริงเป็นธรรมะหนึ่งอะไรที่มีจริงนะคะก็มีจริงแต่ละหนึ่งแต่ละหนึ่งซึ่งไม่ปะปนกันหลากหลายมากวันนี้ตั้งแต่ตื่นจนกระทั่งถึงเดี๋ยวนี้ธรรมะทั้งหมดมีจริงทั้งหมดเห็นทั้งหมดคิดทั้งหมดชอบทั้งหมดไม่ชอบทั้งหมดดีใจบ้างเสียใจบ้างสุขทุกข์บ้างผ่านไปทั้งหมดโดยไม่รู้ความจริงคนเนี่ยค่ะมีจริงไหมคะถ้าไม่มีตาหูจมูกลิ้นกายใจหกใช่ไหมคะไม่มีตาไม่มีหูไม่มีจมูกไม่มีลิ้นไม่มีกายไม่มีใจมีโลกไหมไม่มีเพราะฉะนั้นจริงๆแล้วก็คือว่าแม้แต่คำว่าโลกหรือโลกะก็คือเป็นธรรมะสิ่งที่มีจริงแต่สิ่งที่มีจริงที่เกิดขึ้นเป็นแต่ละหนึ่งแล้วดับไปก็แสดงว่าเริ่มเข้าใจคำว่าธรรมะเป็นสิ่งที่มีจริงเดี๋ยวนี้ด้วยนะคะคิดเป็นธรรมะห้ามคิดได้ไหมคะไม่ได้เปลี่ยนความคิดได้ไหมคะไม่ได้เพราะคิดแล้วเกิดแล้วดับแล้วไม่คิดแล้วเห็นแล้วดับแล้วได้ยินเกิดแล้วดับแล้วทั้งหมดนี่คือความหมายของโลกหรือโลกะสิ่งหนึ่งสิ่งใดก็ตามที่เกิดขึ้นมีจริงแล้วก็ดับไปไม่เหลือเลยเห็นเมื่อเช้านี้อยู่ที่ไหนได้ยินเมื่อเช้านี้อยู่ที่ไหนคิดเมื่อเช้านี้หรือเมื่อกี้นี้ก็ไม่ใช่คิดอย่างนี้นี่ก็เริ่มเห็นเงาของธรรมะว่าแท้ที่จริงแล้วเนี่ยค่ะเป็นสิ่งที่มีจริงซึ่งถูกปกปิดไว้ด้วยความไม่รู้นะคะเพราะฉะนั้นโลกมืดเพราะไม่รู้ความจริงว่าแต่ละสิ่งที่มีเมื่อเกิดขึ้นไม่อยู่ในอำนาจบังคับบัญชาของใครสักอย่างเดียวถ้าศึกษาโดยตลอดนะคะแต่ละหนึ่งนะคะมีเหตุปัจจัยอาศัยกันที่จะให้เกิดขึ้นเป็นอย่างนี้แม้แสนสั้นแต่ก็ต้องอาศัยหลายอย่างจึงสามารถที่จะเกิดขึ้นได้คนตาดีนอนหลับเห็นไหมคะไม่เห็นไม่มีอะไรกระทบตาแต่พอตื่นขึ้นลืมตามีสิ่งที่กระทบตาเห็นจึงเกิดได้ถ้าตื่นขึ้นนะคะเสียงกระทบหูขณะนั้นก็ตื่นขึ้นได้ยินถ้าขณะนั้นคิดตื่นขึ้นนะคะคิดคือคิดเกิดขึ้นขณะนั้นไม่ใช่หลับเพราะฉะนั้นแต่ละอย่างที่มีอยู่นะคะเป็นสิ่งซึ่งไม่ใช่เราไม่ใช่ของเรา
points or any question, Kun Sundra, Kun Ann. Hello, Kun Alberto.
Hi.
I hope it's not too late in your time.
No, it's okay. I don't mind at all.
Kun Sukin Kap, would you like to start?
Sukian, Ajahn is not yet finished her breakfast, so we just go on the discussion first, and then Ajahn will join in a minute.
She's listening to us though.
Yes, she's listening.
Kun Sukin, we cannot hear you.
Sukin, we can't hear you. You have your microphone on?
คุณ Ann and Kun Sundra, would you like to make some statement or something before we start?
Well, first of all, Kuntrin and Kun Al, thank you so much. And I no doubt I'm thinking of Kun Warasak also, many thanks for organizing this. And of course, ultimately, we are really grateful to Ajahn for making available her time. I'm continually inspired by her ability to be there for us and to make herself available. It is truly wonderful. And I know that I'm speaking for everybody when I echo those sentiments. So it's this COVID thing, although it's had its downside, it's facilitated in some respects, directly and indirectly, the Zoom idea, which I think is a brilliant idea. So people from pretty much all over the world. I know, I hear you, and I'm really impressed, Al. You're trying to fill in everybody, trying to adjust to everybody, so that the maximum amount of people can benefit. I know that's not always easy, but I admire your ability to make compromises and to listen to the others and to come up with the solution that suits everybody, which is, I know, is a difficult thing to do, but I hear you're doing your best, and I'm sure everybody else there in Thailand is doing their best. So I would just say, thank you to everybody.
Yes, thank you to everybody too. And I still will keep on trying and discuss with Ajahn what will be the best time. We have to look at overall picture because Ajahn is also doing the Thai discussion as well. So I'm going to try my best to work for the time that will be suit for everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Hudrin, M, and everybody.
So over the last 2 months, Thanajan have been online discussion with many Thai groups, and what she and emphasize again and again is about careful studying of Dhamma, and the most important thing is understanding that all the words of the Buddha points to understanding the moment right now, whether it's seeing now, hearing now, thinking now. So that's what she's tried to emphasize, that proper study or proper pariyatti is coming back to this moment now, and it's only through that and right understanding of that can condition other levels of panya or other level of understanding to understand the moment as it really is. So we receive her kindness from the Thai group, and so we hope to extend this to our Dhamma friends in all over the world too.
Yeah, I was just like Sundara said, we're all very grateful to Ajahn for all her time and effort and so available for everybody. So we're really grateful for that as well. Thank you. Thank you, John.
And I admire your, Alberto, I admire your commitment to Dhamma. You know, you're getting up really early in the morning. So I'm really inspired by that too in you, that you know, make that effort. And I know we're all different, but I'm appreciating, you know, you getting up so early too to listen to Dhamma. And I'm appreciating too Trin's point there that, you know, that Ajahn has always pointed us to the reality that it's appearing, whatever that is. I've got a dog barking in the background here, but I keep on thinking it's the dog, but it's really, as we know, it's only sound. Different moments of aversion, different moments of attachment. Speaking to you also, life is very, very momentary, moment by moment, and I'm ever so grateful again for having a wonderful, inspirational teacher like Ajahn Jun, who can remind us about the realities that appears, and of course all different Dharma friends around the world who have similar thoughts and ideas to remind that, you know, continually remind us that their realities are appearing, and it's not an easy thing to hear. Dhamma is so rare, so precious. I have been watching during.
คุณนิก okay คุณนิก mute the mic คุณ Sundra you can continue sorry.
Hi,
Okay.
Paul. Can you see me and hear me?
Thank you, Trin. Yeah,
we can hear you now, Mom Betty.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. I'd just like to make a short announcement. Tanajan is coming back from Kankojan. So they said we should start without her. And when she comes in, she will come in herself. She'll come into the discussion herself when she gets here. Okay.
Yes.
And also on Saturday, it might be difficult to move the meeting time because there's a Thai meeting at 1 o'clock, 1 p.m. So it may be difficult to change the time unless we make it a little later, say at 9 o'clock instead of 10:30.
I don't know how that would work in Europe, but I can figure it out. I'll look at
yeah, I'm not, an hour later than now. What time is it where you are now?
Where I am, it's 6 in the evening, 6 p.m.
Oh, then is that convenient for you?
Oh, it's good. Yes, very good.
Yeah.
It's much better for those of us in North America.
Okay. In Europe, it might not be so convenient. It's probably at night.
No, well, it might not be too bad. Somebody will have to look at a timetable, you know, one of those tables that tells us what time it is in various parts of the world. I can take a look now.
Kun Vincent, can you mute your mic just for a moment? I think there's some interference. Kun Vincent, okay.
There's Vincent.
We can't hear you, Vincent. I can't hear you. Very bad interference.
Okay, why don't we begin? Perhaps Sarah, Sukin, would you like to, as I mentioned, John will be joining us later. So welcome to everybody, and I hope this looks like it's going to be a wonderful discussion. Sukin, would you like to start perhaps with a question or some idea?
We can start with the topic of pariyati, since it was mentioned just now. Does anyone have any ideas what is pariyati and what is not?
Good for everyone.
Betty, did you hear me?
Yeah, okay. So Ken, I heard you. I was
Yes,
just
I can hear you very clearly.
okay. I was going over it. There's a commentary note about pariyati, which I think was really interesting. I was looking at it during the week, or just a little bit earlier. I'm just trying to remember the Pali, but it's it goes something like this. Well, I could say the Pali, but it's not. I don't think it'd be very helpful. But what it's saying is that if, and you can interpret it in many different ways, if a person who has any skill or any art, and pariyati really comes from it's got composed of two words, pari, which means thorough or complete or all around. It's similar to that pari, that the English word perimeter, all around, pari. And the root of the word is ap. In Sanskrit, the word is prayapti. So it's quite interesting. The word ap, it's quite connected to the word aptitude, I believe, in English. So it's having a kind of a thorough aptitude in your craft, whatever that will be. But of course, we know that pariyati here is referring to the teachings and the Dhamma, and of course, as without our Zoom Jun, we know that refers to the reality of the present moment. It must refer to the reality of the present moment. So it's thorough aptitude and the skills that facilitate the understanding to grow of the present moment.
So, but Sundara, would you say that there are possibly two meanings? One is intellectual understanding, nothing to do with wide, comprehensive knowledge about anything, but intellectual understanding of realities. And the other, as you say in the text is written, it means theoretical knowledge, wide theoretical knowledge, comprehensive in any subject.
Kun Suntra, you need to open your mic. You need to switch on your mic.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Okay, thanks, Kuntran. I think, like, even when I was looking at this word, looking at pariyati and the way it's used in the text, it can refer to different things. And I'm sure, you can interpret it at any level you like, as I understand it. So what you are commenting on there, Kun Sukin, as I understand it, is that, yes, it can refer to like a wide theoretical understanding. That's a valid interpretation of pariyati. But I think perhaps we could say a more helpful one is to have, yes, a person should have a wide theoretical grasp of the teachings, but it needs to be applied. And this is what this commentary note states, that unless it's being utilized and not just kept up in there on the shelf, and it remains what's called samuti satcha. It's a conventional truth, you can say. Conventionally, you can refer to the pariyati word conventionally, but the most important thing is that it's utilized. That understanding is utilized from moment to moment in relationship to the Dhamma.
So okay, go on.
Can we say it's a conceptual understanding of what is happening now? Because we're not experiencing realities directly now, and yet there is an understanding of the meaning behind the concepts, and it has to be that it's occurring now.
Unless it's panya with the present object, with understanding of the present object appearing now, it's not pariyati. If it's theoretical understanding from the book, just knowledge of the terms and the details and the concepts and the ideas like anyone may have when they read the Abhidhamma. This is not pariyatti if it's not panya with the reality as object. Exactly the same object as for the direct understanding, but not yet the direct understanding.
Right.
But it has to be the reality at this moment, no matter what it's called, no matter what the name is. So it's not just the knowledge from reading a book or studying the Pali terms at all. This isn't pariyatti.
I think I used the word concept incorrectly there. I didn't mean something out of a book.
No, I think what you said was correct. It's about the concept of the reality appearing now, but it's the right understanding of what appears now, not just a theory or some terms or numbers or details from the text.
Right. And I think that's often not understood when people talk about pariyatti.
No. People think of pariyatti as following the details and learning the numbers and studying the text, but this isn't pariyatti because that can all be studied without any understanding of the reality appearing now. So it has to come back to this moment, and it has to be panya, not just following the theory, following the story of realities.
But
anyone can follow or read the story, but without understanding.
Sarah, it has to have a beginning with understanding what appears one by one through one doorway. So it's intellectual when it's not direct understanding, but we also know that it needs to grow, and when it grows, so there will come a point when it becomes wide, intellectual understanding, but also about all doorways. So is that possibly the meaning of what Sundara was saying? Comprehensive knowledge.
But it's not the theory or the story about the realities. It has to be the understanding from the beginning. Like now we can say seeing sees visible object, and seeing is accompanied by 7 chaitasikas. That can be said with or without panya. Often it's just repeating something we've heard, repeating some details from the book, and then it's not pariyatti. So in order for it to be pariyatti, there has to be understanding right now of what is seen as reality, even though it's not the direct understanding. So this is the distinction between pariyatti and theoretical understanding. And this is why when people just memorize the number of chaitasikas or the number of rupas and repeat the details from the book, Ajahn will always remind them, well, what about now? What appears now? Because if it's not about this moment and the understanding of what appears right now, then it's just a story. It's not pariyatti. So only panya at this moment can know whether it is pariyatti or it's just thinking with ignorance as usual, or with attachment, collecting the story, collecting the details for the sake of being an expert in the details.
Sarah, if with your definition though, how does it differ then from sati?
Panya understands, so pariyatti is the panya which understands the reality, whereas sati is aware of the characteristic. So sati arises with every sobhana citta, every beautiful citta, and it's aware to which prevents unwholesomeness arising at that moment.
Okay.
But it doesn't understand anything. It's the panya which understands the reality. But without the support of sati, then panya couldn't arise.
So, Sarah, can we conclude that this idea about comprehensive knowledge is actually a good reminder that to have that kind of interest, comprehensive knowledge must be with the basis, built on the basis that each is understood with Panya.
What do you mean by comprehensive knowledge? Because
what I mean is, whatever you read, if you in the text, it all must be on the basis, built on the basis of understanding reality now.
So comprehensive knowledge is not understanding. That's the point. Knowledge. Someone may be extremely knowledgeable and have read all the texts of the Abhidhamma and Pali and be able to memorize and know all the details, but not necessarily any Panya has been developed. So comprehensive knowledge is not pariyatti.
What I'm saying is that it means that you may read a lot, you may it doesn't matter which text, but a lot means a lot. But the point is that you know that it's and you understand that it's all about realities now, such that whatever you read, in the end, it's about understanding now. So a lot of learning means based on understanding the reality now.
So a lot of learning, let's use the word sika, a lot of right study means a lot of understanding of what appears now. It's not comprehensive knowledge. So I wouldn't use that word, because when someone says comprehensive knowledge, like you mentioned, it means like a large amount of book study. But study or sika or a lot of understanding is not the same as a lot of book knowledge. It means a lot of wise hearing and considering about what appears right now.
I wonder about that, because I think what Kunsukin is saying is that it's the knowledge, if you like. I mean, we have to use words. We've got no other way. We have to communicate with words. And I think we all agree, rather than sort of talking at each other, that it's knowledge that it must be the understanding that whatever is being studied has its application to the present moment. I think that's really an important aspect of what we're talking about here. The words, many ways, are relatively unimportant. Buddha made that very famous statement, atamhi natu saranama wocha nat viyanjanam. So it's not the word that's the issue, really. It's the understanding. So we can use all sorts of words, but we may be talking about the same thing. And I think we can we're not using this word, we're not using that word. I don't think that's particularly helpful, frankly. So the understanding is the most important thing. There's no question about that for me.
Understanding of what, Sundara? Understanding of what?
Of the reality that appears, Jonathan. I think that's rather axiomatic, what I'm talking about. It's understanding of the reality that appears. That's what. Right. That's so
how does pariyatti differ from patipatti then?
Well, okay, there has to be a theoretical understanding that facilitates the theoretical understanding of pariyatti that facilitates the patipatti. So one will lead to the other. If there's not the correct pariyatti, there will not be the patipatti and so on, the patiweda.
That's right. So just to refine what we've said so far, that it's got to be understanding of realities, and it's theoretical understanding of realities. Those two things, right?
Repeat that, please, because I think we can get tangled up with words. Please repeat that, Jonathan.
Yeah. The first thing we agreed was that it has to be understanding of realities.
Exactly. So,
and the second point you made was its theoretical understanding of realities.
Well,
the second point you made was its theoretical understanding. Knowledge. I'm saying that putting those two together, it means theoretical understanding of realities.
No, it's not theoretical. You and I don't know, Jonathan, if you're here splitting here. I'm talking about the understanding of the reality what appears. Now, we can use that word theory, if you like, the correct understanding of the theory. What is theory? What is the correct understanding of the reality that appears now? So there has to be that, well, we have to use a word. So I'm using the word, you can use the word understanding then, if you like. But I think I have a pretty good idea that you know what I'm talking about.
Well, I'm not necessarily disagreeing with anything you're saying. I'm just trying to put it in to summarize, so that we can perhaps agree on what is pariyatti and what is patipatti and how they differ.
All right. Okay, that's
and
a good point.
I think both points are worth bearing in mind, that it has to be understanding of present moment realities, but it's not direct understanding, because that's patipatti. So it's intellectual or theoretical understanding, but of present moment realities.
Yes. All right. No, I hear what you're saying. That's much clearer.
And when you said it's knowledge applied, what do you understand by knowledge applied?
Well, again, Sarah, I think this is word games. I really do.
No, I think it's a very important point to get clear, because there've been discussions recently in Thailand. There's a lot of misunderstanding of what pariyatti is. A lot of people misunderstand that it is theoretical knowledge in the book and the study of details, and they take this for being pariyatti, as Trin will confirm. But this is not pariyatti. So it's not hair splitting. It's really important to make it clear. So if someone refers to knowledge applied or theoretical knowledge, we have to ask them what they mean by these words.
I totally agree with that, Sarah. I think talking between ourselves, though, I think when I get back, when they say that statement earlier on, that's the understanding that's the most important thing, not the word that you use. I think people can get, you don't use this word or you don't use that word.
Yeah,
I don't think that
still need to be able to verbalize what that understanding is.
Totally.
Yeah.
So when you refer to knowledge applied, are you just talking about understanding now of visible object that appears, or are you talking about reading something in the text and doing something with it? What I don't know what you mean by it.
What do you think I might mean, Sarah? What do you think I might mean?
Well, a lot of people, I don't want these discussions to be personal, but a lot of people, when they talk about applying knowledge, they talk about book study and learning Pali terms and working out the details and then somehow applying it to this moment. But this is not pariyatti.
Yes, certainly. I totally agree with that. There's a terrible misunderstanding.
This is why I'm asking you to clarify what you meant by knowledge applied.
Well, Sarah, again, I would like to say, what do you think? I think knowledge.
No, it's your expression, so it's better if you explain what you mean. If I knew what you meant, I wouldn't ask, yes.
Sundar, could it be, you're talking about intellectual understanding or what was the other word you used? Knowledge. The important part is applied to the present moment, applied now. I think, isn't that the important piece of the understanding, that you can have all the book knowledge in the world, but if you are not, if you don't know that book knowledge applies, or what you're reading in the book applies to everything happening now, then you're off the mark.
I would rather say as it relates to present moment.
Because if you say apply the theoretical knowledge to the present reality, it sounds like someone doing something. It sounds like self to me, studying and reading and then somehow applying it to this moment. But that's not what Panya is at all.
I think what Anne is saying is probably what Sundara meant, but I agree with Sarah that using the word comprehensive knowledge applied is misleading, because what is, I think Sundara actually meant was that when you read anything about anything, one reality about seeing or anything, it must with the understanding that it is now. So in that way, it is being applied. I think that's what Sundara means.
Well, I think we have to go further than saying understanding that what is being read applies or relates to the present moment, because that itself can't be pariyatti, just that. And pariyatti doesn't have to be related to a moment of studying or reading in the conventional sense. So pariyatti can arise at any time, and the conditions for its arising are the same as really the conditions for the arising of patipatti, and that is having heard the teaching and having reflected on what's been heard. And there can be a moment of understanding of how what has been heard relates to the present moment.
Mm-hmm.
But that can come at any time.
Yeah.
Right,
so
I agree with John. Yeah,
it's in that sense, it's not nothing to do with the application of study. It arises by its own conditions, because there could be study forever, even thinking it applies to the present moment, but no conditions for pariyatti to arise. So that's distinction has to be made, I think.
right. I mean, we can use words and then misunderstand and be misunderstood. But I think what Sundara actually meant was that apply means understanding. So it's synonymous to understanding.
Mm-hmm. And I think it helps to also bear in mind that it arises at a time, not of our choosing. So it's just can be any time, not necessarily when we are studying in the conventional sense.
So we don't have to mention it with regard to book study, because someone may not read any books, but there may be conditions for pariyatti to develop. So it's not a matter of doing anything and then applying. It's a matter of understanding at this moment, because there's been the wise consideration about the realities right now. So even now when we're having this discussion, there's thinking, there's seeing, there's visible object that appears. So there can be understanding right at this very moment, nothing to do with any text that's open or being studied or anything applied, but it's what appears right now.
The more study there is or has been, the more knowledge that's been acquired about the teachings, then the more conditions for pariyatti to arise, because I don't think that's the case at all.
When
I listen to the word apply, it's very hard not to think of a self doing something.
Yeah,
that's the point.
If I can come back to the point I was trying to make about comprehensive knowledge, wide knowledge, what I was trying to come to is that it can be a good reminder that the understanding that we have about pariyatti being understanding, intellectual understanding of whatever appears now, and what Sundara was citing from the commentaries is about having wide knowledge and comprehensive knowledge, is that it can be a reminder that if the understanding is weak or there's no direct understanding, that we must keep on listening and developing intellectual understanding.
And even that expression, keep on listening or keep on studying, has to be understood, because some people misunderstand and they think the more hours they listen to a jhana at the foundation or the more books they read, this is what is meant. But it isn't the amount of time or the amount of book reading. It's the wise considering. This is the listening right at this moment. We may be busy at work, or we may be sick in hospital, or life goes on as normal. But the listening is the understanding at this very moment, the very wise considering about what appears now. And this isn't in the book at all. It's the visible object that's seen now, the sound that's heard now, life at a moment now. This is the continued listening and considering. So when we use words like knowledge, it doesn't matter, Sundara says, whether you use understanding or knowledge, but often when people refer to knowledge, including translators, they're thinking about the amount of book information or the amount of study of particular terms. But when the Buddha talks about panya or growth in knowledge, it means just now the development of understanding of what appears now, even if it's frustration or annoyance because someone has a different view. What about the annoyance now or the frustration at this moment? There can be understanding that this is Dhamma, not self, and that is pariyatti understanding at this very moment. If it's not now, it can't begin. So life always comes back to this moment, at the moment of being bored or frustrated or annoyed or happy or sad or seeing or hearing. It's always reality at this moment. So whatever we read, it's about now, about what appears at this moment.
What you just said, Sarah, reminds me of something about what I heard in terms, in relation to a savaka, someone who's following the Buddha's teachings, is hearing the Dhamma at the right time, which I understand to be just those times when understanding arises. It's not like you choose a time. It refers to when understanding arises.
Exactly. So one may be in the bathroom and it's the right time at that moment for wise considering. It doesn't mean that it has to be at this moment when discussing Dhamma or reading the book. It can be in one's yoga class, or any time is the right time when, because there can be understanding of reality any time at all. So if one thinks in terms of book study or applying anything at particular times, then it won't be the right time now, because it's like postponing or putting off for a better time or another time.
Just to add a little bit on Kun Sarah's point, is that pariyatti understands what is heard is about realities right now, but then understanding also understands correctly that there's no direct understanding of it yet. So once one considers that even though we hear about all these realities happening right now, the understanding is not strong enough to understand it as it is yet. So that's a different level of understanding.
Right. And it's also a trap, because if one thinks like one has studied the details of the sense door, mind door processes and can recite the different details and the cetasikas arising, and one thinks that one has developed good pariyatti or intellectual understanding or knowledge, it's a trap, because one doesn't see the lobha at such moments, or one takes that book study or knowledge for being pariyatti now, but it's not. So it has to be what appears at this moment, no matter one's studied a lot of details or little, depending.
I think any moment we think about what we are doing, where one is, it's wrong anyway.
And I think, like Roti said, if it's any idea of applying anything, it's a trap, because it's like one's read about those details, and then if there's any idea of applying it to this moment, that is not what pariyatti is about at all. It's not a matter of applying anything or doing anything at all. It's just understanding what appears at this moment very naturally, not by thinking of the study one has and then putting it to this moment. I think lobha is so very subtle, more subtle layers, and that idea of practice or doing or applying is so deep-rooted. Like people hear about visible object, and there can be the trying or applying that visible object at this moment, but that is not understanding, that's self again.
And Kunshara, I think what's dangerous is that they don't, there's no understanding that lopa, that it's the obstacle to actually understand the reality as it is. We are blind.
Yes, especially the loba with ditthi at this moment. And it's like that for all of us. It's not just them. It's also right now that subtle idea of doing or applying. And that's why when someone talks about knowledge or applied, even our good friends, it's good to question and consider, what is it at this moment? Is there any subtle wishing to understand now, wishing to be aware, wishing to have right listening at this very moment? Loba is there all the time. Maeve, it's good to see you. I'm glad you joined.
Hi, Maeve.
Do you have any?
Hi, Rogie. Nice to see you too.
Yes. Maeve, do you have any? We can't hear you. Do you have any comments about understanding now?
Yes. Can I just follow up on what it prompted me to reflect on? It was a comment that Jonathan made that made me reflect about how Ajahn keeps, no matter what we're discussing, she will always bring us back to the present moment. So we might be trying to unravel, what is pariyatti, etc., and she will bring us back to what is arising now. And Jonathan, I was struck by your comment about Panya, that it arises not at a time of our choosing. And of course, that's true of all realities. And that's such a useful aspect to think about, because it's only by gradually coming to terms with what the implications of that are that the concept of no self starts to, I suppose, become applicable to everything that is experienced through mind and sense doors. So that idea of not being able to choose in the way that we somehow cling to, that we can choose to study, we can choose to acquire knowledge of the Dharma, that whole gamut of subtle and not so subtle lopa, yes, is that captures that beautifully, Jonathan. Thank you for that.
Not only not choose, but not predict either. And not only not predict, but not be able to create the conditions for it to occur. And in fact, pariyatti, of course, when Panya begins to develop, it's very weak, so it can be, in fact, imperceptible. And it's quite possible that there are moments of pariyatti arising that are not noticed at all. But only after a time one can reflect on the fact, or it becomes apparent that there is a clearer understanding of realities, of the difference between seeing and hearing, for example, or seeing invisible object or whatever, that the one's understanding of the world has shifted over time, and there is a better appreciation of the conditioned nature of things. And this can only have come about because there have been moments of pariyatti. It's not because of one's intellectual study that these things happen, because that's intellectual study can only affect one's superficial thinking really, way of thinking, but a deeper understanding, say a more appreciation of the conditioned nature of things, or how there's no real control, for example. If it's true, if it's intuitive understanding that's been developed, then it must have been from moments of pariyatti.
So, Jonathan, it actually doesn't matter what we're thinking about. It's what matters is the chitta, the quality of chitta at that time. If it's with panya, if it's kusla, if it is akusla. So even if you're thinking in terms of the words of Dhamma words, if it's with akusla, it's with akusla.
Hello, I'm here now. How are you all?
Hello, Ajahn.
Hello, Ajahn.
Hello, John.
So just about the word pariyatti, if we forget the name pariyatti, there are so many things in and around this moment. No understanding of them at all. That's why when it's hearing about whatever appears now, is it true or not? But when it's the words of the Buddha, it brings about how much ignorance in one's life from life to life. That's why we learn to understand the truth of whatever appears now while hearing the teachings of the Buddha. For example, now, there's hearing, thinking, and things all around unknown as they are, as not permanent at all. And actually, in the end, there is no thing at all. No one, no thing, from moment to moment. This is the absolute truth, the final truth of everything. That's why we can see that as long as there is no understanding of whatever appears now, it is ignorance, taking everything for something permanent like I all the time. So the hearing the truth of the word of the Buddha, just conditioned right understanding from hearing, not from any other word at all. So it's not just belief, but it's the moment of studying or understanding what is now. Nothing is permanent at all. Hearing and seeing cannot be the same moment at all. That's why just learn to understand little by little to accumulate right understanding for the elimination of ignorance, not for any other thing or point. See, because of not understanding whatever appears, that's why we'd like to understand it, and no one can help anyone to understand except the right word about whatever appears now, no matter we call it pariyatti or not. Just the moment of beginning to hear from listening to the right word about whatever appears as it is. And we cannot say that it can be developed so very soon, because it takes how long it is to understand just now which is appearing and disappearing from moment to moment all the time, naturally. Because the truth is whatever is conditioned to arise appears now. Nothing more than that. And just to appear and then disappear, that's all in life, from life to life, no matter we call it pariyatti or not. But this is not enough, because it can be enlightened, the absolute truth of each reality now. That's why one learns to understand that just hearing the words of the Buddha or the truth of whatever appears is not enough, because the characteristic which is not self does not appear yet as it is. Just that which appears, can it be anything or anyone or self? For example, seeing sees what? That is not I, which is seen. No one, nothing at all. So this is the way to understand from word to word of the Buddha, to know whether it's true or not. That's all in one's life. Only the accumulation, the right accumulation, can condition more and more understanding to know that there's no I, no self at all, until the end, when reality can appear to the very highly developed, panya developed already, as it is. So at this moment, whatever appears falls away instantly all the time. And that is the truth, which hasn't appeared yet. But it will only to panya. So panya, and we use the word panya, which means right understanding, begin to understanding how much ignorance of everything right now. No way to do anything, no way to try something to know it, because it is done by ignorance and attachment, just wanting to know. And that's why craving or lopa is so great, that if panya is not strong and sharp enough, it cannot see it even right now. Because after seeing 3 moments later, it's there all the time, unknown all the time. And that is true. So it is not I who try to know it better, but to develop the understanding how it cannot be taken for a permanent thing or self at all. And this is the point. No matter you call it pariyatti or not pariyatti or any word, it's just they're starting, they're beginning to understand the truth of whatever appears when it appears. Because while one is reading, it's not there. It's only the word, the line, and the memory makes it something like word and think about it. But it's not any moment right now, or that moment, as no one is doing that, but it's conditioned to arise and fall away, little by little, to be known. So we don't mind whether we call it, or anyone would call it pariyatti, as long as it's about whatever appears now, and that is the understanding of that from the right word, to not just to believe, but to understand whether it's true or not. And this is the most precious thing in each life, that can be a life which understands the teachings, because nothing from birth to death just to be forgotten, for sure. Even it's not next life yet. Yesterday was forgotten already. Even just a moment ago, it's gone. No one thought about it at all right now. Just having another reality arising and falling away, unknown all the time. Until there's the right word, just talking about the truth of whatever appears now, no matter you call it what, it's the right understanding from hearing and considering the truth of whatever is now appearing.
Chan, so is the right
no matter
word,
we call it
which
intellectual understanding or just pariyatti, it doesn't matter at all, as long as it's about whatever appears now to be known as it is, little by little, which is not self or anyone who is doing anything, but each moment is conditioned just to be the proof that actually no one can make anything arise at all. And whatever arises falls away instantly. That cannot be taken for anything permanent at all, from life to life, to be forgotten. Even right now, just moments ago, I've forgotten completely. And this is true or not. Because actually no one can make it this way at all, to just arise and fall away all the time by conditions, with wrong understanding, wrong belief that it's me, to be sure that actually there are different realities conditioned to appear and disappear from moment to moment, until Panya can understand whatever appears now just as it is by conditions.
So, Chan,
Is there doubt now?
the right word. Chan,
See,
you
no
said
one
the right
knows.
word.
But when one hears more about it, Doubt about what? What is now is not known. So that each word of the teachings of the Buddha bring about understanding what is there now, which is not known at all, until it begins to appear well, better and better, by more and more understanding, until it is direct moment that it's not just hearing or thinking, but it's there as it's taught, as it's proven by the enlightened one. So we can talk about anything in darkness, like, is there doubt now? Is there feeling now? Is there sanya now? Is there lopa now? Everything is in darkness. Does not appear at all until more and more right understanding about them, and then a movement of understanding it as now as it is, just right now, little by little, one by one, exactly, until it's so clear as vipassana jnana. Otherwise, we just talk about it while it now arises and falls away from moment to moment, all the time, endlessly, from life to life, and then no memory about anything at all after death. And next life comes again to the end of death, and nothing is left. That's all. So I don't think that we mind much about whether what pariyatti is. It's the words which bring about right understanding of whatever appears now, because no one can think about it by oneself at all, because it's the person who is enlightened only can teach about the truth of everything right now from the enlightenment, one's own enlightenment. Is it good to know that so much ignorance? เสียงสะท้อนนะคุณวรศักดิ์
เอ็กโคครับท่านอาจารย์ฮัลโหลครับ
นั่นสิ
ครับ
เสียงท่านอาจารย์ชัดเจนครับท่านอาจารย์ครับ
อะไรนะคะ
เสียงท่านอาจารย์ชัดเจนครับ ชัดเจนมากครับ ชัดเจนมาก
อ๋อค่ะ ดีค่ะ
And I was going to add when Maeve was bringing up the point earlier about how
So
it has
the
to always
question is
apply
just
to
now, what is now appearing to what? Ignorance. Again and again, all day, all life. Until there is the hearing, the right words about whatever appears, and begin to study, to know that it's so true. It cannot be taken for anything at all. It's that which impinges on the ideas and conditioned seeing just to arise to see. That's all. Just to arise to see. That's a function of that very moment. From moment to moment, life keeps on going non-stop, never to return. Is there lopa? See, not known. It takes quite a long time for panya to begin to just consider the truth of what appears from moment to moment by conditions. This is much more difficult because there's no self who can do anything at all. And this is that which can lessen the clinging to the idea of self. Otherwise, there must be always I, all the time. So very tricky, Lopa.
So Sukino,
Ignorance all around. Even the word that which experience an object right now cannot be studied yet from the very beginning until there's condition a lot from moment to moment to begin to understand it little by little, but not at will. Much more difficult. So one can understand what's meant by Kanti Parami, Viriya Parami, Satya Parami, and Adhidana Parami, just to understand the truth that actually there's no one, no thing at all. Each moment is gone completely, never to return. Only Panya can be wise to Lopa. And when there's no Panya, Lopa is there. After seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, thinking, see, all the time. Before there can be a moment of taking it for something permanent. The tree, the flower, the sky, whatever now as usual. It's there by conditions. So one can understand the accumulation of ignorance and all akusala in life. So Panya has to develop or to understand more and more until ignorance is just very little, less and less. While it's so great from years and years. That's why the best thing in life is just to live, to understand the truth. Only. Otherwise, it's not Viriya Barami, it's not Satya Barami, it's not Adhidana Barami. So that if anyone try to understand it as not self, it's wrong. That is Lopa. All the time, all the way. So very tricky.
ท่านอาจารย์ครับฮัลโหลท่านอาจารย์ได้ยินไหมครับ
ค่ะ
ครับดูเหมือนในห้องจะได้ยินเสียงท่านอาจารย์แต่ว่าในห้องลองสนทนากับท่านอาจารย์ได้ไหมครับ
อะไรนะฮะไม่ได้ยินเสียงคุณประศักดิ์ชัดเลยกระท่อนกระแท่น
ครับได้ยินไหมครับ
เสียงคุณประศักดิ์กระท่อนกระแท่น
ฮัลโหลตอนนี้ได้ยินไหมครับ
ไม่ชัด
ไม่ชัดเหรอครับ
เสียงแดงก็ไม่ชัดใช่ไหม
ชัดครับเสียงท่านอาจารย์ชัดแจ๋วเลยครับ
ท่านอาจารย์เสียงหนูไหมคะท่านอาจารย์ได้ยินเสียงหนูไหมคะ
ถ้าเสียงคุณวรศักดิ์ทำไมไม่ชัดอ่ะ
ครับแล้วท่านอาจารย์ได้ยินเสียงคุณแอลไหมครับ
กระท่อนกระแท่นน่ะ
กระท่อนกระแท่น
ไม่มีใครถามอะไรเลยยังไม่มีใครพูดอะไรเลยสักคำ
งั้นเดี๋ยวผมขอตัดสายท่านอาจารย์แล้วผมโทรกลับอีกรอบนะครับท่านอาจารย์ครับ
ค่ะเมื่อกี้มีคุณตรินได้ยินชัดหน่อยคนอื่นไม่มี
ชัดเจนเลยครับเสียงท่านอาจารย์ชัดเจนมากครับ
ใช่ไหมคะตั้งแต่ท่านพูดเนี่ย
ได้ยินหมดเลยครับทุกคำเลยครับ
เขาหยุดกันหมดเลย
ไม่ครับได้ยินท่านอาจารย์หมดเลยครับแต่ทีเนี้ยทางนี้พูดไปท่านอาจารย์ไม่ได้ยินงั้นเดี๋ยวผมขออนุญาตตัดสายท่านอาจารย์แล้วเดี๋ยวผมโทรกลับท่านอาจารย์อีกรอบนะครับครับผม
โอเคคุณแอม will be reconnecting ท่านอาจารย์คุณแอล please ครับพูดเลยครับป้าแอลครับ
Apparently, she didn't hear anybody in the room. That's why she keep talking. She was waiting for someone to say something, but she didn't hear. So now M is disconnect her, and then he's gonna try to connect her again so that she can hear all of you. I know Sukin's trying to say something and Sarah tried to say something, but she can't hear. I obviously she didn't hear.
Okay.
She was wondering why no one was answering any question or coming in with any comments, and we were wondering why.
Yeah, she come back already. ท่านอาจารย์คะคุณสุขิน has something to talk with you ค่ะเชิญคุณสุขิน
ไม่ได้ยินเสียงอะไรเลย
ไม่ได้ยินเสียงเลยเหรอครับ
ไม่ได้ยินเสียงหนูด้วยเหรอคะท่านอาจารย์
ท่านอาจารย์ค่ะ อาจารย์สักครู่
But I think everyone appreciate what she said to us not just now.
อาจารย์ได้ยินไหมครับ
ชัดตอนนี้ชัดแล้วค่ะ
ชัดแล้วนะครับโอเค everybody please continue
เสียงดิฉันชัดไหม
ครับผม
เสียงอาจารย์ชัดครับเสียงผมชัดไหมครับ
คุณตรินใช่ไหมคะ
สุขินฮะ
อ๋อคุณสุขินค่ะชัดเจนค่ะคุณสุขินเพิ่งพูดใช่ไหมคุณสุขินเพิ่งพูดใช่ไหมคะ
ใช่เพิ่งพูดครับ
โอเคค่ะชัดค่ะ
โอเคแค่นี้คำถามผมหายไปแล้วตอนนี้แค่อยากจะรู้ว่าอาจารย์ได้ยินพวกเราเปล่า
ได้ยินค่ะ
เหรอสุขินไม่มีคำถามแล้วเหรอ
ไม่มีแล้ว
Anybody else has question to talk with Ajahn or anything they want right now she can hear you guys
โอเคในเมื่ออาจารย์
go ahead
ครับอาจารย์อาจารย์เมื่อกี้พูดว่า the word ตรงนี้หมายถึงคำสอนของพระพุทธองค์ใช่ไหมครับ
ใช่ค่ะไม่พูดถึงค่ะ
So Ajahn, you used the word, and now before you came, we were discussing about the meaning of pariyati, and of course, the most important is the understanding at the intellectual level of the reality now. But when you use the word, I'm wondering if the meaning of pariyati also means the teachings.
Yes. Because you see that when it's not pariyati, it's just the word. But when it's a word of the Buddha, the word of the truth, and at moment of listening to that word, there can be understanding of reality, which talks about just that. For example, right now, they're seeing, thinking, liking, so many things, but no understanding, so much ignorance. But when there is the word of the Buddha, like what is now? See, it brings about thinking about what is there now. Is there nothing or something? Or what is the truth of it? So we just talk about the words of the Buddha, the words of the teaching of the Buddha. No other word at all. But the word is the word, and Buddha taught more about what is the word. Without the reality which can experience an object, can there be any word? And even there is that which can experience, but it's ignorance. Can there be the word which bring about the understanding of whatever appears right now? We just talk about the truth of whatever is now as it is. For example, there is seeing before hearing the teachings. See, I mean the teaching of the Buddha. Before hearing the words of the Buddha, no thinking about seeing at all. There is seeing all the time in one's life, from birth to death, but no understanding, no thinking about it. But it's real, it's truth, it's a reality in life, because there is always seeing all the time, all day long, like now. So no understanding of seeing, no understanding of thinking, no understanding of everything. And what is that which cannot understand? That which is now appearing. Not understand means ignorance. It's real. So we are talking about what is real, what is the reality in life. Each moment, that is the words of the Buddha, the enlightened one, because no one can have any understanding about it at all before hearing the words or the teachings of the Buddha. But when we talk about that which is now appearing, to know that it's that which see. So it's not I who see, it's only that which sees. And what is that? It's real, it's a reality because it sees now, but it's that which can experience the object. So we use the word seeing, the object which appears. So we begin to understand each thing, reality in life from hearing the right word. No matter we call it pariyatti or not, it's the moment of understand the truth of whatever is now, little by little, until it can understand better and better about what is now, naturally. And when it's not the direct understanding, which experience that as not self yet, one knows that it's only hearing about it, while the truth is the arising and falling away of everything right now. So even you don't say that it is pariyatti, but that level of understanding is not the direct one, which without that there cannot be the enlightenment of the truth of what Buddha taught about the truth of now. See? So we have to understand what is what we say or call pariyatti, not about other thing else at all, but about any moment in life now. Because it's there now, unknown is that which cannot understand it. And that is avijja, ignorance. Every moment in one's life, from birth to death, from right to life, until there is the right word from the enlightenment who indicates the truth of whatever appears now. And no matter you call it pariyatti or not, it's the beginning of hearing the right word which can bring about understanding the reality of that which appears now.
So, Achan, for example, when you refer to ignorance, definitely there's no direct understanding of ignorance. And
Even,
also
excuse
intellectual
me,
understanding, it seems to be just in terms of a idea, a story about not in relation to not knowing the present moment, not understanding the present moment, therefore ignorance. Is such uh, understanding or misunderstanding, what is it? Is it intellectual understanding? Is it pariyatti?
if you don't call it intellectual, if you don't call it pariyatti, we are talking about what is there now, what is the truth of it. Okay, no matter you call it pariyatti or not. But we are talking. Usually we use the word we are talking because we have to talk according to what is there in mind. Like we are here and we see this or that. It's so natural because of ignorance, not understand the truth of it. So what is ignorance? The moment when whatever appears and there is no understanding the truth of it as it is. Do you just want to call it pariyatti or whatever there?
But when it's ignorance, and
and what is ignorance? Excuse me. What is ignorance?
Ignorance is not understanding. It's
understanding
not
what
appears now.
So when there is no understanding now, it is ignorance, right? Not you, not anyone.
It seems to be just in the book. Even when I say it is ignorance, it seems to be just in the book.
Not in the book now, because seeing is not in the book. It's this moment. It's wrong to say that seeing is in the book.
No, I cannot say that in relation to seeing, but when you talk about ignorance, it seems to be just in the book.
Is there any understanding of seeing as it is that which experiences whatever appears now?
Just intellectually, there can be understanding.
If you don't use the word intellectually, is that right understanding or ignorance, understanding seeing as it is?
There is seeing now. There is some understanding
of seeing. Is there any understanding of seeing?
Very superficial, very like everyone says, yeah, there is seeing, because there is seeing.
But no understanding of seeing, right? At all.
No.
Now. And what is that which does not understand is ignorance. It's true, it's real. When there's no reality which can experience anything at all, there cannot be ignorance, right? Because ignorance is the reality which experiences what appears with no understanding.
So,
Even if
Sukin,
the-
when Ajahn talks about the words of the Buddha bringing about understanding, it doesn't mean just the word sound as taught by the Buddha brings about understanding. It has to be the understanding of sound
Meaning.
now that brings about more understanding. If one just repeats sound, anyone who has never heard the Buddha's teachings can talk about sound which is heard, but what is understood at this moment, at the moment of hearing, that is what's meant by the words of the Buddha bringing about understanding. So it's not just the details in the book that anyone can read with ignorance or talk about with ignorance. The understanding at this moment, conditioned by the wise consideration of what has been heard from the Buddha's teachings.
But Ajahn also mentioned that these particular words could not have come from anyone else, or we couldn't have thought about it. So there seems to be an aspect where it is one thing to understand and one thing the words,
Because
itself.
like sound, like any child can say they can hear sounds, but it's not the reality of sound, which is a Dhamma that is talked about. So when it's the words of the Buddha, it's sound, the reality, which is not anything or not anyone at all, just the sound that is heard at this moment, different from all the ideas. So this is what is meant by the words of the Buddha. But if there's not any wise consideration or understanding of what is meant by sound at this moment, it's not pariyatti, it's not anything at all. It's just the usual ignorance that anyone can have. So in order for it to be understanding at this moment, there has to have been the wise consideration of what the Buddha was talking about, sound as that reality which is heard at this moment, no thing, no person at all. So it doesn't matter what it's called, and it doesn't matter whether it's referred to as pariyatti or understanding or anything else. It's the understanding now of what
This I agree. Yeah, this I
to us.
agree. In the end, it's. I was thinking when Ajahn started talking that from beginning to end, the best reminder is understanding now.
It has to be, because otherwise, if it's just details in the book and there's no understanding at this very moment of what appears now, then it's not what we call pariyatti or understanding of any kind. And that was what I was going to add on to what Maeve was saying, that whatever we hear about, it's about Chitta Cetasika Rupa, it's about different realities. If we talk about the story of what is in the book, then it's not the understanding of reality at this moment that is conditioned. So even when we hear about the words of the Buddha conditioning understanding, it is the understanding of reality right now, or every time. Nothing that's applied, nothing that's done. It's just the understanding at this moment, no matter where and when or what the circumstances, no matter how much reading or little reading, or it's just about seeing now, hearing different realities at this very moment. And that's what's meant by the words of the Buddha bringing about understanding. Because if there had never been any considering about realities now as anatta, impossible for any understanding to develop.
And, I was wondering if your question was really about pariyatti or whether it was about ignorance.
Both. I mean, the ignorance came later, but because when I was hearing about ignorance and then I was reflecting on our discussion about pariyatti, and I was thinking that when we hear about seeing being just, seeing does not see people and things, seeing experiences visible object, that I can understand intellectually. but it seems to be, when it comes to ignorance, it seems to be an inference based on in relation to other things, like there's no experience of, there's no understanding of seeing now, therefore ignorance.
Well, that's I think it's ignorance, of course, is a mental factor. So we have to understand that although we're using a conventional term, it has a very special meaning in the Dhamma context, momentary mental factors. But I was going to say, if there is that pariyatti of ignorance, will be much like pariyatti of anything else. That is to say, some degree of confirmation of what has been heard and comprehended from the teaching of the Buddha. But the reality itself, as described, we have to bear in mind it's a momentary mental factor that does not know anything about the object at that moment. And just to follow on a comment you've said, because there's no, I don't think we can just say because there's no attention to what is being experienced through other sense doors that there's ignorance. And it doesn't matter if there is or isn't, because it's not appearing at the moment. So as we know, the pariyatti, if it arises, will be in relation to something that is A, arising, and B, appearing at the present moment.
There are many realities that don't appear, right?
Yes. Yes.
But still our understanding that they are no self, still considered a level of understanding, pariyatti, right?
Well, if they're not appearing, then they will not be known as having the characteristic of not self at that moment.
Okay. So
I think what John is saying is that, as in the case of ignorance, and when he earlier commented about what constitutes pariyatti, that it can arise not necessarily, it doesn't mean that when you're reading or hearing the words only, it can happen in a day, anytime. So same with ignorance, there can be an intellectual understanding of ignorance, just as there can be understanding of seeing or hearing in a day. Right, John?
What do you mean by intellectual understanding? Are we talking about one can understand, have learned something about the characteristic?
No, I mean it arises not necessarily when we read about it.
Right. But at any time.
At any time. And you were saying that earlier when you were answering my question, that when I had doubts about knowing ignorance as again knowing visible object or seeing, you were saying that just because it's not arising now, there cannot be this, what I understood you to be saying, there cannot be a similar kind of understanding of ignorance as there is understanding of visible object another moment.
I'm not sure I follow, but if my main point, I think, is that, you know, if there has been pariyatti of other objects, then pariyatti of ignorance is similar. So it's known in that way. But whether it's likely that ignorance would be the object of understanding of any level, I'm not sure at this time. Perhaps Ajahn would like to comment on.
Are we now quite away from this moment?
I think so.
Yes.
Always.
So now, just this moment, when we talk about anything, it's there. For example, there is seeing right now, no understanding of seeing as just the moment of that which arises to see and then falls away. Is that true? And when there is no understanding of seeing right now, and you have doubt about ignorance, it's there, unknown, until there is the understanding of the reality which arises and experience. There is seeing, but no understanding of seeing. There must be a reality which can experience that without understanding right now. That's why it's not just only the word talking about how much ignorance is there from life to life. It's now at this moment as asva and as that which is anusya accumulated in each moment of citta. So at the moment of seeing, no one can talk about the truth of it except that which is a person who has enlightened the truth. Absolutely all reality is as they are. So now, when there is doubt about ignorance, it's there, unknown, because ignorance cannot understand ignorance. So by hearing this, from hearing this, we can see that so much ignorance. So we don't go far away from this movement that there is seeing, but not yet the understanding of seeing as not self, as that which can arise, experience an object conditioned by the eye and other conditions. It's there, not self. Just understand that the teachings of the Buddha brings about the truth of no self, no one, no thing, sunyata, anatta. Otherwise, it's I who just learn and who just talk about this all the time. But the person who see the lopa and ignorance begin to understand whatever appears now. As that it takes quite a long, long time to understand seeing as that which arises to see only. And when there is no understanding, just the word ignorance all the time, but it's there all the time. That's why one should not neglect or don't pay attention or understand the teachings that is so great and it's so real that it takes time to understand before there can be the perfect understanding of no one at all from stage by stage of the panya, which has to begin from hearing the right words of the enlightenment, from the enlightened one. So ignorance is there now. But when there is no understanding of a reality that which can experience, there cannot be understanding of ignorance, because ignorance is that which is the reality which can experience, but without understanding. Is it clear now about ignorance? It's not the tree, it's not the flower, but it's the reality which can experience. It arises and experience an object. So when there is no understanding, ignorance is there. It has a reason and it cannot understand the truth of whatever appears. It's the way to bring about the development of understanding the reality which experiences arising and experience, not self at all. Get closer to the meaning of the term Dhamma, that which experience, because it experiences any moment all the time, no matter sleeping or waking up. From moment to moment, that which arises to experience is conditioned to arise and fall away all the time, unknown, and that which cannot understand is ignorance. That's why they can be hearing the teaching respectfully. That's so great that it can bring about understanding clearly, little by little, but not the direct one yet from the beginning, but learn to understand what is there now, which is not known at all before hearing the teachings of the Buddha. But the truth is the truth. So the word of truth can condition understanding for those who study respectfully. That each word is from the enlightened one. What is the difference between panya of him and the others? So it needs more and more considering, wise considering, to understand that there is that which now experiences not I. It's condition, it experience just a moment and then fall away from moment to moment, continuously unknown. And it conditioned the attachment, which is very hardly to discern or to know exactly, even at this moment. Just not to be careless and think that the teaching is so easy that one can do anything. That's wrong, because the truth is that no one at all. So no one can do anything or can make anything up at all. Only conditions, which has to be learned more and more. And that is what we say pariyatti, because it's all about that which is the truth, which is taught, but it takes time to understand clearer. Because just now, it's not enough. That's why the Buddha taught for 45 years to condition right understanding, which can understand the lopa and the moha as the second truth, noble truth. So it's panya. His words is all about panya, right understanding of whatever appears, from hearing to direct experiencing to enlighten the truth of it. So clear as it is, like Dhamma, that which experiences, is not clear yet, does not appear clearly yet. But it can, because it's real, but not by anyone or any practice, but it's from understanding little by little about now. So it's much different between hearing and just following the word. It's not self, it's Dhamma, it experiences. That is not enough. So one study carefully the truth that is so very difficult, but it can be developed from moment to moment of understanding each word, like ignorance or Dhamma or whatever, just each word, one word at a time. And it conformed with all the teachings in 45 years.
And I was just going to add a comment to something that Tam mentioned about ignorance. For example, we may read about ignorance in the book, and we may reflect that an hour ago there was a lot of ignorance, but this may just be the story about my ignorance in the past without any understanding, or there may be a little weak in understanding, reflection on ignorance at any time during the day, but it's not the same as understanding ignorance at this moment or attachment at this moment, even now as we're listening to Dhamma, because when it's thinking about ignorance in the past or at some other time or in the book, it's just the story about it, but not the actual understanding of ignorance right now, after seeing or hearing right now at this moment. So most of life from moment to moment now is actually in ignorance. So it can be the beginning of wise consideration about ignorance right now at this moment.
When wise considering arrives, there can be more understanding of ignorance, because one just heard these words, but there is another word with the idea of I thought like this and that. See, just the word ignorance and that which appears brings about one's own thinking about it. See, But when there's right considering, no one can do anything. So follow the word with more and more understanding. Because
And this is,
yes.
And this is the word of the Buddha when it is the words that are heard with wise understanding now. Otherwise, it is just following the words with one's usual idea of my ignorance half an hour ago or my ignorance during the day. Then it's not the words of the Buddha. That's the difference.
And that hinders the understanding of the words of the Buddha.
Ajahn, I was thinking along the lines, I think, of what you just said. I was wondering when considering what ignorance is and how it can be understood. I think what you just said is that when there's understanding of any reality, at that time, there's also some understanding of what ignorance is. Is that right, Ajahn?
When there's the understanding of avijja, ignorance, it does mean that it's only thinking about, but it's the moment of seeing that there must be the reality which can experience. The tree doesn't have ignorance at all. It cannot think, it cannot like, but the moment of not understanding, it's real because it's a reality which arises and experience. So it gets closer to understand the difference between that which cannot experience and that which experience. No matter it is ignorance or seeing or hearing or whatever will come later. When there is the understanding of even ignorance is a reality which experiences with no understanding.
I heard in one of your Thai talks, Ajahn.
Part of the answer to your question about what ignorance is and how it can be understood lies in Ajahn comment that everything takes time. And so ignorance can't be understood before there are the conditions for understanding to take ignorance as an object, no matter how much we would think it may be useful or important even that there be understanding of ignorance, but it can't be brought forward, as it were, and so if it doesn't appear, it's not going to be the object of understanding. Meanwhile, there are dhammas appearing that can be object of understanding.
And Ajahn, I heard in one of your Thai talks, you mentioned that there's so much thinking about rupa, but never the reality of nama, which experiences those rupa. Can you say something about that?
Because it's always I like, but like is not I. It's just the reality which experiences the object with attachment, different from other reality. See, just learn to understand so that the ignorance can be less and less, little by little. Otherwise, how much ignorance is there from day to day, the whole life? So the moment of understanding is the moment of have less attachment and ignorance by itself. No one can do that at all. Only the function of right understanding, which understands at that moment, it just lessens the ignorance and not understanding. From moment to moment, from one object to another object, one reality to another reality, until it's so full that it can condition direct awareness without the idea of self, who wait or who try or who is developing it all. It's there, like seeing right now, it's there by conditions. So sati or satipatthana is there by conditions, like seeing now, naturally. So the words of the Buddha is the only way to understand reality as not self, as it is. Not by anyone try through the pariyati or what they take for patipati.
So, for example, what I just mentioned about no attention to the experiencing, when one hears something like that, there can always be the I who comes to try to experience, to understand the experiencing.
Yes. We hear about hardness, which is touch now. Usually, immediately, there's an idea of I'm touching hardness, the reality, but what is the experiencing of it? So it doesn't matter what words are used, but the understanding that it's just a moment of experiencing and then gone, never to return. There can at that moment even now be beginning of understanding, but as you say, as soon as it's an idea of applying or doing or selecting or understanding, then it's wrong path itself again instantly. But it can be known whether it's understanding of the experiencing at this moment or whether there's the idea of I'm experiencing hardness. So it always comes back to this moment. The understanding is always now. And it's not any rule, because if someone may hear this, they may think, oh, hardness should be the object of understanding before touching or experiencing, or visible object should be known before seeing. It's not like that at all. No rule, no selection at all. Each one is Dharma that arises and passes away.
I mean, because if there's a rule, it's I again.
It's I again. So if someone thinks that this is easier and that's harder, or hardness appears before taste or before touching, then it's I for sure. This is the wrong application, the wrong study, the wrong understanding. Someone may pounce on a word that Jun said and think this means it's like a rule, or visible object should be known first before seeing or before sound. That's completely wrong. It just depends on the accumulated understanding at each moment. And it just depends on what appears. No expectation, no anticipation, no selection at all. Always the unexpected.
So, Achan, it seems that the I comes in very often, even when we're hearing the Dhamma.
All day, all life. See, so listening to the right words of the teaching, and there is the understanding of no one, no self at all, is that the only moment which develops until it is so great that it can understand each moment as no self. Otherwise, no other way at all, no matter how much one tries or one thinks about. Because the understanding only of the truth can condition confidence of there's no other way, and that is the right way to go on to understand by conditions. See, to understand with more and more confidence of no self is only the way to have less and less attachment to the idea of self, until reality can appear better and better as it is by conditions. So the confidence on the no self, anatta and sunyata will go so great, so much that it can be so keen that no matter what is there, Panya can see and understand that actually it's only just a moment, never to return. So it's not trying to understand, but to understand the word of the teachings of Buddha about that little by little, until the confidence is so firm, not other way at all. So it's so natural and more natural as now. As natural as now, to understand that even Panya, even Sati is conditioned to arise from understanding the word of the truth about it only.
And I think that when there's more understanding and more confidence, there's less and less thinking about, should I study the book, or should I listen more to Ajahn, or is it okay to go to my yoga class? Or because there's more and more understanding that each moment, each reality is conditioned, no matter one turns left or right, or listens or reads, or doesn't listen or read. There's seeing, there's hearing, there's thinking, there's doubt, there's ignorance, there's attachment. And each reality, each moment is conditioned. Not I who can choose or select or find any way or apply anything at all. No rule at all, because each moment, each reality is conditioned. And this is what it means to live so naturally and easily, not have any idea of selecting or trying to apply, or this should be understood first. Nothing like that at all.
Tanajan, can you speak now, as we've discussed Parayati a bit, can you speak a little bit about direct understanding, Patipati?
Yes. Is the seeing right now?
Yes.
Do you understand that which experiences?
That which is what?
Experience.
Uh-huh.
That is seeing. Is there any understanding of that which experiences? You call it seeing, right? But does anyone understand the truth of seeing? It's there, everyone knows. There is seeing all the time. But is there any understanding of the truth of it? See, impossible. Because it's hidden because of the rapidity of the arising of seeing and other reality followed instantly all the time. No way, no condition to understand seeing when there is no understanding of that which experiences from birth to death and on after death. No one can stop the truth of that which is conditioned to experience it all. So one lives with the idea of I from life to life. And is that right? Where is the I? It's just the moment of seeing. So not just saying that seeing is that which experience. That is the thought about that which is heard. But now, see, now, from not hearing it all to hear about it little by little, until it can condition the moment of understanding that which experience as a reality which experiences. That's why they cannot be understand. Excuse me.
I don't know whose that is. My house.
The dog barks.
Stalks.
Yeah, you see, we can say, anyone can say that seeing is not self. Seeing is that which experiences. But that which experiences is not known as it is. It's only thinking. But when there is more and more understanding, not by self, but by moment of hearing, and it's followed by thinking carefully, what is seeing? Now it says, it means that which knows what is there, as not yet anything else, but only that which can be seen. See, to understand better is more and more difficult until it's enough to condition right awareness with right understanding of that which is now appearing by conditions. See, like this sound, see, by conditions, it's gone. And it's object of that which here. So that's why the first vipassana jhana is the nama, rupa, paricheta jhana, which means that the nama appears as it is. That which is the experiences. But as it's the object of understanding, the object of it does not appear, but the characteristic which experiences appears. And when it appears, the world is so dark because there is no seeing at all. How can it so bright? But when we turn off the light, it's dark, but not as dark as when there is nothing appear through the 5 doorways. So one understands better and better, little by little, that it has to be known directly. But the first moment of direct awareness, Panya is so very weak. Even it's conditioned by hearing a lot, understanding a lot. But the moment of when it's there at the object is so weak because it needs more and more understanding, enough to let go the idea of self, to understand that very truth of that which arises and experience. No shape, no form, nothing at all. So no expectation to have it arise at any time at all by conditions. Just understand as not self from moment to moment to be accumulated until time comes to be right conditions for awareness to understand whatever appears now as it is very natural by conditions only. And that is not yet vipassana jnana because it's only the beginning of the development of satipatthana, which is patipatti, not pativeda yet. Is that clear? So it's not easy to understand the truth of whatever appears now as it is, that which arises. Otherwise, there's no seeing, and it just arises to see only and then gone completely. So the characteristic of the reality which experiences becomes to be known as our reality, not I. Little by little, until it is pativeda. By conditions, it means more conditioned or confidence on the truth of anattanness and sunyata, because all gone. But Panya is not strong enough to let go the idea of something as the object of thinking. Because
So
thinking
Betty,
can rise, but it has to appear as that which experiences as well. And they can the beginning of understanding the characteristic of the reality of doubt. Different from doubt about learning the word. But doubt about the reality, even right now, is there, but it's closed, it's covered up. Because the understanding of the words of the Buddha is not enough yet. That's why one understands there's no self who can do anything, but there are conditions for panya, right understanding, to grow more and more, little by little, by conditions. That's why one just keep on reading, considering, hearing, discussing on Dhamma.
and Betty, whichever level of understanding one's talking about, the object is exactly the same. Visible object is visible object, that's what's seen. But in the beginning, the understanding is so weak. So one knows it's visible object that's seen now, but so little understanding. So it's not the object, the reality which changes, but just the understanding develops firmer and firmer until that object appears well. That is when it is satipatthana, or the direct understanding. So the object, the reality at this moment, whether it's doubt or hearing or sound, exactly the same, but just the understanding has to develop
Thank you both.
stronger and stronger till it's closer and closer to the reality which appears.
I wanted to ask, wanted to say about, can you hear me? Yeah? Can anybody hear me?
We can hear you, Kunaberto.
Okay, great. I was just thinking about
มีเสียงรบกวนอ่ะเสียงรบกวนมาก
Pariyatti and ignorance.
Alberto, there's some interference. Is your mic positioned properly?
Okay. Is it better now? Is it okay? I was asking. I was saying that about ignorance and Pariyatti, because when knowing that seeing is not being understood at all, even though we say that seeing is right now, there is seeing, but knowing that there is no understanding of it, because seeing is not easy to understand at all. Maybe knowing that can be some sort of pariyatti as well. Knowing that there is, I think that Sukin was saying something like that a long time ago. I remember, like on the line of saying that knowing of not knowing is some kind of understanding. Yeah. Pariyatti can be at the beginning, when there is little, when the understanding is little, could be just knowing about ignorance in the sense of knowing of not knowing.
Yeah, they're not the same, are they? When one knows that something is not being known, that's thinking about it. When there is understanding of ignorance, that means that ignorance itself is the object of the understanding that moment.
I think it's always comes back to what's now. So even if I say that knowing that one does not know, knowing that there's not knowing, what does not knowing know? What does not knowing experience at that time? I think if it's to be intellectual understanding pariyatti, it must be in relation to some reality now.
Say it again, please.
And Alberto is wondering about something I said some time ago about not knowing, knowing that one does not know, or knowing that there is ignorance, is a beginning of understanding. And whether that's correct.
When there is no understanding of the reality which experiences, can there be the understanding of ignorance? Because whatever appears now, without the reality which experiences it, nothing appears at all, even ignorance. So the not understanding the truth of that which experiences will have more and more doubt about other things. So the way is to understand that which experiences, they are so different. Ignorance is one because ignorance is also that which arises and experience, but without understanding, like now. So it's not possible to select to understand the ignorance at all, but just understand from not understanding the reality which is now experiencing an object, no matter what, like ignorance, anger, or whatever is there. It's so real. So no selection at all. And then when ignorance is there, what is to be known is that which experiences. It's the beginning of understanding what we used to think about Nama, that which experiences.
There is just speculating about how during most of the discussion, nothing much is understood, or 5 minutes ago, nothing much is understood, and there's a lot of ignorance. It's not actually understanding anything about the Nama now. It's not understanding about ignorance now, or seeing now, or hearing, or any reality. It's just thinking about a story about ignorance. So I don't think it's not the same as understanding or pariyati at this moment of what is real right now.
And now there is seeing, no understanding of seeing. But what about ignorance? See, we think away from this moment, far away again and again. Whatever does not appear can be object of understanding. But what is now appearing, is there any understanding of it, as is that which experiences? This is the most important because there is no understanding of the truth of whatever appears in life. There is the idea of self, seeing, hearing, and so on. But what is seeing? What is thinking? They are the reality, what can experience objects. To know that exactly there's no self and there's no one at all. To understand that. So it's just like the reminder with how much there is understanding of seeing right now, when seeing is there now, and we think about experiencing ignorance. But when there is the understanding about that which experiences perfectly, that is still not enough, because if ignorance is not there as object, that cannot be the understanding of ignorance. That's why only Nama, Rupa, Paricetayana is not enough. But this is not Nama and Rupa, Paricetayana yet, but learn from hearing the word of truth, that what is there is nothing, because actually only when it appears is real. After that, nothing, again and again and again. And this will lead to higher and more understanding in life later, rather than just thinking all the time about this and that, whether it can be experienced or not. See, the proof is this moment, how much understanding of that which is now appearing, not that which does not appear. What about Sampatichana Santirna? No use to think about it then, because they do not appear at all. Like now it's there. Ignorance, even it's there, it does not appear. Like other Jetasikas arising with the moment of seeing. No need to think about Passa, no need to think about Manasikara or Chivitindriya. Whatever appears should be known. And it cannot be known as long as Panya is not great enough or good enough. We talk about seeing all day, and it's there all day. The moment of understanding the truth of just one reality, one word at a time, what appears just one at a time. And that cannot be done. It has to be conditioned. That's why it can letting go the idea of self naturally, Otherwise, it doesn't take quite a long time, as Ian's as Ian's ahead. So no expectation is the right way to letting go the idea of self. That's so fun. Whatever appears, before it can develop to the moment of understanding it with Dhammasati, or right awareness, which is uncontrollable, no expectation. The truth is that even that is conditioned to arise. This is like the only way to letting go the idea of self, because now I can see what is there, which leads one away from the truth right now. From the right words of the teaching about all realities, little by little, so very little by little. And one can see that this is the way to have less attachment, not cling to what we want to know or want to be.
Thank you very much, Ajahn. Is it time to finish? Anumodana, much we appreciate it very much, Ajahn.
Thank you so much.
And everyone.
Wonderful session.
My great pleasure. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye for now.